Welcome back to Vietnamese Vixens. Today's story comes from a man named Eric, 34 years old, from Stockholm, Sweden. He thought Thailand would be his reset button, a place to exhale after a brutal divorce, a place where he could feel wanted again, where the cold weight of Swedish loneliness might finally lift. He was right about one thing: Thailand did show him something, just not what he expected. This is about the three types of foreign men Thai women cross the street to avoid. And halfway through his 6 months in Bangkok, Eric realized with a sinking horror that he was becoming one of them. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever thought a change of scenery might save you, if you've ever watched yourself turn into someone you don't recognize, stay with us. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if this story sounds familiar, hit that like button and subscribe because you're not alone in this. Now, here's Eric's story, in his own words. I landed in Bangkok on a Tuesday in March. The heat hit me the second I walked out of Suvarnabhumi Airport, thick and wet, wrapping around my neck like a hand. Stockholm had been gray for months. Gray sky, gray buildings, gray faces on the metro. My ex-wife's attorney had gray eyes. Everything had gone gray after she left. After I found out about her colleague, after the apartment got sold and split down the middle like our entire life together was just a transaction that needed closing. I'm an engineer. I build systems. I fix problems. But I couldn't fix that one, and the failure sat in my chest like a stone for 8 months, until my boss noticed I wasn't sleeping and suggested I take the sabbatical I'd been accruing for years. So I did. I bought a one-way ticket and told myself I'd figure out the return later. Bangkok wasn't gray. Bangkok was neon, and exhaust, and street food smoke, and impossible traffic, and women who smiled at me. Actually smiled. Not the polite Swedish smile that means, please don't talk to me. But real smiles, the kind that reach eyes. I'm not stupid. I knew some of it was transactional. The girls in Nana Plaza and Soy Cowboy, the ones who called every foreign man handsome because handsome meant money. But even outside those areas, in coffee shops and malls and the BTS, women looked at me. They didn't look through me the way women in Stockholm had started to after I hit 30 and my hairline began its slow retreat. That first week, I felt like I'd been holding my breath for years. And finally someone told me it was okay to exhale. I found an apartment in Sukhumvit near Fromfong. Nothing fancy, but clean, 30,000 baht a month, about 9,000 kroner. The building had a small pool I never used, and a 7-Eleven next door I used constantly. My routine developed quickly. Morning coffee at a place called Coffee Society. Lunch wherever I wandered. Afternoons working remotely on a few freelance projects to keep my savings from evaporating too fast. Evenings, I'd end up at one of the expat bars near Asok, nursing a Chang beer, watching football on fuzzy screens, talking to other foreign men who'd all come here for their own reasons. They didn't quite want to examine too closely. That's where I met Martin. Martin was German, early 50s, with a sunburned neck and cargo shorts that had too many pockets. He drank Singha and spoke loud enough that the entire bar could hear his opinions about Thai politics, German engineering, and why Bangkok was better than Pattaya for quality women. The first night I met him, he was showing his phone to another expat, swiping through photos of different Thai women. This one wants to meet tomorrow, he said, his English thick with a Hamburg accent. But this one is special. 23, works at Siam Paragon, studying hospitality. We've been talking for 2 weeks. I didn't think much of it then. Seemed normal enough. Guy meets women, guy goes on dates. But over the next few weeks, I started seeing Martin everywhere. Same coffee shop in the morning, same food court at lunch, same bar at night. And always, he was talking about women. A new one every few days. He'd meet them on Thai Friendly or Tinder, chat for a day or two, then suggest meeting. Most said yes. Most showed up. And most, I gradually realized, found a reason to leave within an hour. I watched it happen one Thursday evening at a rooftop bar in Thonglor. Martin had invited me along, said he was meeting a real beauty, very traditional family, looking for serious relationship. She arrived exactly on time, which surprised him. Her name was Ploy. She wore a simple dress, had her hair pulled back, carried herself with the kind of quiet dignity that made Martin's loud energy seem even more abrasive by contrast. I said hello and then made myself scarce at the bar, but I could see them from where I sat. Martin bought her a drink, then another. Then appetizers she didn't ask for. He kept touching her arm when he talked. She kept moving it away. He showed her photos on his phone, his apartment in Germany, his car, his watch collection. She nodded politely, but her eyes had gone somewhere else, somewhere far away from that rooftop. After 30 minutes, her phone rang. She answered, spoke quickly in Thai, then turned to Martin with an apologetic expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. "My friend, she has emergency. I must go. Sorry, Ka." She was gone before Martin could offer to drive her, which he did anyway, loudly, to her disappearing back. "Women here," Martin said when I joined him at the table. "Always some excuse. Friend emergency. Mother sick. Buffalo died. It's always something." He finished Ploy's untouched drink. "But it's okay. I have 3 other matches this week. This one. Look, she's gorgeous. Works at a hotel. Already said she wants to meet Saturday." I wanted to tell him that maybe Ploy left because he'd treated the date like a business presentation for why she should choose him. That maybe Thai women didn't want to hear about German superiority over Thai food while eating Thai food. That maybe touching someone who keeps moving away is a sign to stop touching them. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded and thought, well, at least I'm not like that. At least I have self-awareness. At least I know how to read a room. But here's the thing about patterns. You don't see them when you're inside them. You only see them in other people. I matched with a girl on Tinder named Fern. She was 26, worked in marketing. Her profile said she liked art galleries and indie music. We chatted for 2 days before meeting at a cafe in Ari. She was smaller in person than her photos suggested, with black framed glasses and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. We talked about Stockholm and Bangkok, about the differences, about how she'd never left Thailand but wanted to see Europe someday. I told her about my divorce in vague terms. She told me about her ex-boyfriend in equally vague terms. It felt balanced. It felt normal. We met again 3 days later. Then again the following week. I thought I was doing it right. I wasn't like Martin. I didn't talk about money or show off. I asked questions. I listened to her answers. I split the check when she insisted, which was most of the time. But somewhere around the 3rd week, something shifted in me. She took 6 hours to respond to a text once. Just 6 hours. Probably because she was at work. Probably because she had a life that didn't revolve around a Swedish man she'd known for 3 weeks. But I felt it like a punch. That old familiar panic from my marriage. The one that showed up whenever my ex-wife came home late or seemed distracted. The one that whispered, "She's losing interest. You're not enough. You're going to be alone again." So I started texting more. Good morning messages. How's your day messages. Thinking about you messages. I sent her a link to a Swedish band I thought she'd like. Then another link. Then a long voice message about a movie I'd watched. She responded to some of them. Shorter replies each time. I offered to take her to a nice restaurant in Sathorn. She said maybe next week. I said I'd pay. It wasn't a problem. She said okay, but her tone had changed. I couldn't name how exactly. Just that something had cooled. We met at the restaurant. I'd made a reservation at one of those places with white tablecloths and river views, the kind where a meal costs 3,000 baht per person. She looked uncomfortable the moment we sat down. "Eric, this is too much," she said quietly. "I told you I prefer casual places." I laughed it off, said I wanted to treat her, said she deserved nice things. She went quiet after that, let me order for both of us, even though I could see the small tightness around her mouth that meant she wasn't happy about it. I talked too much that night, filled every silence with words, with stories about Stockholm, with plans for places we could visit together, with suggestions for how long she thought I should extend my stay in Bangkok. Maybe 6 more months. Maybe a year. Maybe indefinitely, if things kept going well between us. She barely touched her food. At the end of the night, outside the restaurant while we waited for her taxi, she said, "Eric, I think we want different things." Her English was good, but she chose her words carefully, the way people do when they're trying not to hurt someone. "You're a very nice man, but I think you need someone who wants what you want. I don't think that's me." I asked what I'd done wrong. She didn't answer directly, just said, "You don't do anything wrong, but it feels heavy, like there's pressure I didn't ask for." Her taxi arrived. She got in. I stood on the sidewalk in my iron shirt and good shoes and watched the red taillights disappear into Bangkok traffic. I felt hollowed out, humiliated, angry at her for not seeing how much effort I'd put in, angry at myself for caring so much so fast. I went to the expat bar that night. Martin was there, showing his phone to a new guy, swiping through photos. "This one's different," he was saying. "She's educated, has a real job, not like the bar girls. This one's special." The new guy nodded politely, but his eyes had the glazed look of someone who'd heard this speech before. I sat down next to Martin and ordered a double whiskey. "Women here," I started to say, and then stopped myself because I sounded exactly like him. Martin patted my shoulder. "Ah, you're learning," he said, not unkindly. "They're all the same in the end. You think you've found the special one, but there's always something, always some excuse. Better to keep meeting new ones. Don't get attached." He showed me his phone. He had 43 active conversations on Thai Friendly. 43 women who probably all received the same compliments, the same promises, the same photos of his watch collection. I went home that night and looked at my own phone. I'd sent Fern 8 messages that day. She'd responded to none of them. I typed out another one, just checking if you're okay, and then deleted it. Then typed it again. Then deleted it again. I put the phone face down on the table and stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly in the humid dark. The desperate one. That's what Thai women avoided. The one who texted too much, tried too hard, offered too much too soon. The one who couldn't hide his loneliness, who wore his need like a cologne that made women's faces change when they caught the scent of it. I'd seen it in Martin. I'd judged him for it. And now, lying in my rented apartment with the sounds of Bangkok filtering through the windows, I felt the horrible recognition settling into my bones. I was becoming that one. 2 weeks later, I was in a bookstore in Siam, one of those chains with English sections and overpriced coffee. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just killing time, trying not to check my phone every 5 minutes to see if Fern had blocked me yet. I was in the travel section, looking at a book about Norwegian fjords and wondering if I should have gone there instead of here, when someone said, "Excuse me, you're blocking the Thailand guides." I turned. She was young, maybe 24, wearing the bookstore uniform and an expression of patient amusement. Her name tag said Some. She had short hair and tired eyes, and absolutely none of the coy flirtation I'd gotten used to from women in bars and on apps. She looked at me like I was just another customer in the way, which somehow made her more interesting than anyone I'd met in months. "Sorry," I said, moving aside. "I wasn't actually looking at Thailand. I've been here 2 months and still don't know anything about it." "2 months, and you don't know anything?" She pulled a guidebook from the shelf, flipped through it. "This one is good for beginners. Very basic. History, culture, important phrases. Maps of Bangkok that are only a little bit wrong." I laughed. Bought the book. Came back the next day and bought another one, a novel she recommended. Came back the day after that just to see if she was working. She was. We talked for 10 minutes about Swedish noir fiction, which she'd read extensively, and I hadn't despite being Swedish. She seemed to find this funny. I liked making her laugh. It felt earned, not transactional. Over the next 2 weeks, I came to that bookstore 6 times. Sometimes Some was working. Sometimes she wasn't. When she was, we'd talk. Nothing heavy. Books, music, the chaos of Bangkok traffic, the weird customers she dealt with. I didn't ask for her number. Didn't suggest dinner. Didn't offer to pay for anything except the books I actually wanted. I was trying, consciously trying, not to be Martin, not to be desperate, not to be the guy who scared women away with the smell of his loneliness. Then one afternoon, she said, "You come here a lot for someone who claims not to like reading." She was organizing a shelf of crime novels, her back to me. "I like reading fine," I said. "I just also like talking to people who actually see me instead of seeing a foreign wallet with legs." She turned around, studied my face for a long moment. "You've had bad experiences here." "Some. Let me guess. You met women who wanted money, or women who ran away when you got too intense too fast." She said it matter-of-factly, without judgment, like a doctor diagnosing a common condition. "Most foreign men here are one of 3 types. The desperate one who needs constant validation, the entitled one who thinks Thai women should be grateful, or the bitter one who hates everyone because he got hurt." She put the last book on the shelf. "Which one are you?" The question hit me in the chest. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "I'm hoping none of them, but I'm not sure anymore." She looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. "At least you're asking the question. That's better than most." Then she wrote her number on a receipt and handed it to me. "There's a jazz bar in Ekamai I go to sometimes on Friday nights. Not touristy, real music. If you want to come and just listen to music like a normal person instead of like a man on a mission, you can text me." I held the receipt like it might dissolve if I gripped too hard. "Just music." "Just music," she confirmed. "Unless you'd rather go back to swiping on apps and wondering why women disappear." I went home that day and looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror for a long time. My eyes had that hollow look my ex-wife used to comment on toward the end. "When did you stop sleeping?" she'd asked once. "When did you start looking so desperate?" I denied it then. Called her cold, called her cruel. But standing in my Bangkok bathroom with Sum's number in my pocket and Martin's sad pattern playing on repeat in my head, I wondered if she'd been trying to tell me something I wasn't ready to hear. That I'd been drowning for a long time. That you can't build a life on someone else just because you don't know how to build one for yourself anymore. That the desperate one, the entitled one, the bitter one, they're all just stages of the same sickness. In Thailand, with its heat and chaos and beautiful patient women who'd seen 1,000 foreign men arrive with the same wounds and the same delusions, Thailand didn't create that sickness. It just held up a mirror. I texted Sum that night. Just one message: "See you Friday. I'll try to be normal." She replied 3 hours later with a simple, "Good luck." And somehow, that felt like more than I deserved. The jazz bar in Ekamai wasn't what I expected. No tourists, no go-go music bleeding through walls. Just a small room with exposed brick, mismatched furniture, and a three-piece band playing actual jazz. The kind with improvisation and silence that meant something. Sum was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a glass of wine and a book. She looked up when I approached, marked her page, and smiled. "You came," she said. "And you're on time. That's rare for foreign men in Bangkok." "I'm Swedish," I said, sitting down. "We're pathologically punctual." "I've noticed," she said. "You came to the bookstore at the same time every visit, 2004 7 p.m. Like clockwork." I hadn't realized she'd been paying that much attention. Something warm spread through my chest. We sat there for 2 hours, barely talking, just listening to the music. When we did talk, it was easy. She told me about studying literature at Chulalongkorn University, about her family in Chiang Mai, about how she'd moved to Bangkok 5 years ago and still felt like an outsider sometimes. I told her about building bridge software systems, about the gray Swedish winters, about how my marriage had ended not with a fight, but with a quiet agreement that we'd both been pretending for the last year. She didn't offer sympathy or advice. Just listened. Just nodded. Just let the information exist without trying to fix it. We started seeing each other after that. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times, always casual. Coffee shops, bookstores, street food stalls in Yaowarat, or she'd order in Thai and translate for me. She insisted on splitting everything. When I protested the first time, she said simply, "I have a job. I pay my own way." It wasn't angry or defensive, just factual. I liked that about her. She didn't perform gratitude, didn't pretend to be impressed by things that weren't impressive. When I told her about my engineering work, she asked technical questions that showed she'd actually listened instead of just waiting for her turn to talk. I thought I was doing it right this time, not pushing, not pressuring, just being present, just being myself, whoever that was. Now after divorce and displacement, and 2 months of Bangkok teaching me things I didn't want to learn. Then I met James. He showed up at the expat bar one Thursday night with Martin, who introduced him as "good people, been here 3 years, knows how it works." James was American, somewhere in his late 30s, with the kind of aggressive confidence that fills a room. He wore a Chang beer tank top and had a tribal tattoo on his calf that he probably got in Phuket during his first month in Thailand. He spoke Thai loudly and incorrectly, mixing tones in ways that changed beautiful to unlucky, and didn't seem to notice or care when Thai people winced. "This place is paradise, man," he said to me within 5 minutes of meeting me, his arm already around my shoulders like we were old friends. "Paradise, if you know how to work it. These girls, they're not like American women. No feminism bullshit, no entitlement. They appreciate a real man, you know?" I didn't know. I nodded anyway because that's what you do in bars with drunk men who are determined to share their wisdom. James had been with the same Thai woman for 18 months. Her name was Nok. She worked at a dental clinic and lived with her mother in Bang Kapi. He showed me photos on his phone, swiping through pictures like she was a car he'd bought. "See that? Smoking hot, 28 years old, cooks every day. Doesn't nag, doesn't demand shit, perfect woman." He took a long drink of his beer. "Only problem is her family, always some drama. Someone needs money for the farm, someone's sick, someone's buffalo actually did die this time, I swear to God." He laughed. "But that's the price you pay, right? Access to prime Thai girlfriend material means dealing with the family bullshit." Something about the way he said prime material made my skin crawl. But I was new to this world, still figuring out the rules, still trying to understand what was normal expat cynicism and what was something darker. So I laughed politely and changed the subject. I saw James and Noak together a week later at a food court in Terminal 21. He was talking loudly on his phone in English while she sat across from him, eating pad thai in small, precise bites. When he finally hung up, he didn't apologize for making her wait, just launched into a story about his day, about his job teaching English at a language school, about how one of his students had been late and he'd docked her grade. "That's how you earn respect here," he said to Noak. "You can't be soft. These people, they take advantage if you're soft." Noak nodded, but her eyes were empty. She looked like she was practicing disappearing while still physically present, a skill I recognized from my ex-wife's face in the last months of our marriage. "Hey," James said, noticing me hovering near a dumpling stall. "Eric, come meet my girlfriend." He waved me over. I approached reluctantly. Noak looked up, and I saw the calculation in her eyes. Another foreign man. Another friend of James. Another person who probably had opinions about her life. "Sawadee ka," she said politely, giving me a small way. "Sawadee crap," I replied, probably murdering the pronunciation. "Noak doesn't speak much English," James said, even though she was sitting right there. "Which is fine, honestly. Less arguing." He laughed. Noak's smile didn't move. "You dating anyone yet, Eric? Or still playing the field?" "I'm seeing someone," I said. "It's early." "Thai girl?" "Yes." "Nice. Word of advice though, don't let her think you're a walking ATM. Set boundaries early. They'll test you. See how much they can get. It's cultural. They're raised to extract resources from men, just how it is here." He said this like he was sharing profound wisdom, like he'd unlocked some secret code. Noak was looking at her phone, her jaw tight. I made an excuse and left quickly. Walked around Terminal 21 for an hour, trying to shake off the discomfort of that interaction. James wasn't like Martin. Martin was desperate and sad and obvious in his loneliness. James was something else. James thought he'd 500th figured it out. Thought he'd cracked the system. Thought Thai women were a puzzle he'd solved. And the worst part was how many other expat men seemed to agree with him, nodding along to his theories, sharing their own stories that always ended with the same conclusion: we're right, they're wrong, we're teaching them how relationships should work. I told myself I was different. I respected some. I listened to her. I didn't talk about her like she was property. I didn't assume her family was scamming me. I didn't turn every interaction into a transaction. But here's what I didn't see then. Here's what took me months to understand. Entitlement doesn't always look like James. Sometimes it's quieter. Sometimes it wears a mask of good intentions. Sam and I had been seeing each other for 6 weeks when I suggested she meet my friend Anders, another Swedish guy who'd arrived in Bangkok recently. We were having dinner at a small restaurant in Ari, the kind of place with plastic stools and food that costs 40 baht. She was telling me about a difficult customer at the bookstore when I interrupted with, "You'd like Anders. He's a photographer, very artistic. I think you two would get along." She paused mid-sentence, fork halfway to her mouth. "Why do you want me to meet your friend?" "Just thought it would be nice. Expand your social circle. Meet more foreigners." "I have a social circle," she said quietly. "I have friends." "I know. You just meant you want to show me to your friend. Like proving something." She put her fork down. "Eric, I'm not interested in being part of your expat social group. I'm not a cultural ambassador. I'm not here to make foreign men feel better about living in Thailand." I felt my face get hot. "That's not what I meant at all. I just thought, you thought I would enjoy meeting someone because he's foreign and artistic. You didn't ask if I wanted to. You just assumed I would want to expand my circle in that direction." She took a sip of water, her hands steady. "Do you know why I gave you my number that day at the bookstore? Because I wasn't pushy? Because you seemed like you might actually see me as a person, not as a Thai woman, not as an experience, not as proof you're better than other foreign men here, just as someone you found interesting." She looked at me directly. "But lately I'm not sure anymore." That's not fair. I do see you. Do you? Or do you see a Thai woman who validates your belief that you're one of the good foreigners?" The question hung in the humid air between us. A motorbike roared past outside. Someone was laughing at another table, and I sat there, trying to figure out how this conversation had gotten away from me so quickly. I wish I'd apologized then. I wish I'd shut up and listened and thought about what she was actually saying. But I didn't. Instead, I got defensive. "I'm trying really hard here," I said. "I'm learning Thai. I'm respectful. I don't do any of the shit those other guys do. I actually care about you, about your culture, about doing this right. And you're treating me like I'm some kind of colonizer because I wanted you to meet my friend." She sighed, not angry, just tired. "This is the problem, Eric. You think effort equals understanding. You think learning 20 phrases and eating street food means you get it. But you don't ask what I want. You decide what a good relationship looks like and expect me to fit into it. When I don't respond the way you expect, you get frustrated. I can feel it. The little comments about how Thai people do things differently. The surprise when I don't want you to pay for everything. The confusion when I don't introduce you to my family after 6 weeks. Most people introduce their partners to their family by now," I said, and immediately regretted it. "Most people where? In Sweden? This isn't Sweden, Eric. And I'm not most people. I'm me. And maybe I'm not ready to introduce a foreign man I've been dating for 6 weeks to my mother, who already worries I'm going to end up like her friend's daughter who married a German man and moved to Munich and never calls home anymore." Her voice had an edge now. "Maybe I'm protecting myself. Maybe I'm protecting you. Maybe I'm just tired of foreign men who think they're different from all the other foreign men because they read one book about Thai culture and tried Tom Yum once." The check came. I reached for it automatically. She reached for it at the same time. We had a brief, tense tug of war with a piece of paper that cost 240 baht total. She won. Paid the whole thing. Stood up. "I need some space," she said. "I like you, Eric, but I don't like who you're becoming around me, or maybe who you always were and I'm just now seeing it." She left. I sat there with the empty plates and the sounds of Bangkok at night, and the slow, creeping realization that I'd just been told something important and had completely missed the message. Over the next week, I tried to fix it, sent her thoughtful texts about how I understood, how I'd give her space, how I wanted to do better. Each message carefully crafted, each one a small performance of understanding. She responded once, "Eric, this is the opposite of space." After that, nothing. I went to the expat bar. James was there, mid-argument with Knock over the phone. He was speaking English loudly enough that the entire bar could hear. "I don't care if your sister needs money for her kid's school. That's not my problem. I already gave you money last month for your mom's medicine. What do you mean it's important? Everything's always important with your family. Fine. Whatever. Just don't ask me again this month." He hung up, looked at me. Women, man. Give them an inch, they take a mile. Martin appeared from the bathroom, sat down heavily. "My date canceled again," he announced to no one in particular. "Fourth one this week. They always find some excuse." "That's because you're too nice," James said. "You got to establish dominance early. Let them know you're in charge. Otherwise, they walk all over you." I opened my mouth to argue, to say that wasn't how relationships worked. That women weren't horses you had to break. But then I thought about my text to Sam, about how I'd ignored her request for space because I'd decided what was best for us, about how I'd assumed she'd want to meet Anders without asking, about how I'd been frustrated when she wouldn't move at the pace I'd decided was normal. I closed my mouth, ordered another beer. Let James keep talking. Sam texted me 2 weeks later. "Can we talk?" We met at a park near Chulalongkorn University. She looked tired. I probably looked worse. "I've been thinking about what to say," she started. "I don't want to hurt you, but I need to be honest." "I'm listening," I said. "You came to Thailand looking for something. I don't know if it's healing or validation or just a place where you could feel wanted again. But whatever it is, you've been trying to find it through me. And I can't be that for you." She sat down on a bench, gestured for me to join her. I did. "You're not a bad person, Eric. You're actually quite kind. But you don't really see me. You see what you want me to be. The cool Thai girl who reads Western books and likes jazz and doesn't want your money. The one who proves you're not like those other foreign men. But I'm more complicated than that. I have doubts and fears and expectations you don't understand because you've never asked about them. You've just assumed that because you're trying hard and being respectful, that should be enough." "What do you want from me?" I asked, and it came out more bitter than I intended. "I want you to stop thinking of me as a Thai woman and start thinking of me as just some. I want you to stop comparing yourself to men like James and Martin and feeling superior. I want you to understand that being better than terrible is not the same as being good." She looked at her hands. "But mostly, I want you to go home and figure out who you are when you're not performing for someone." "Is this because I'm foreign? Would this be different if I were Thai?" She smiled sadly. "You're doing it again, making this about your identity instead of your behavior. If you were Thai and acted like this, I'd still be having this conversation. But you're not Thai. And that matters because you come with assumptions you don't even know you have. Assumptions about what Thai women want, about what relationships should look like, about what gratitude looks like, about what respect means. And those assumptions, they fill up all the space where actual understanding should grow. I wanted to argue, wanted to explain how hard I'd been trying, how much I'd changed from the person I was in Stockholm, how I wasn't entitled like James or desperate like Martin. But sitting there in that park with the afternoon sun beating down and the sound of students laughing in the distance, I realized she was right. I'd been so focused on not being the wrong kind of foreign man that I'd never stopped to ask what the right kind of anything would look like. I just assumed good intentions were enough. I should go, some said, standing up. Take care of yourself, Eric. I mean that, but do it for you, not for the next woman you try to fix yourself for. I watched her walk away across the grass. She didn't look back. I sat on that bench for another hour, watching Thai students study and laugh and live their lives that had nothing to do with foreign men or their complexes or their desperate need to feel like they'd figured something out. My phone buzzed. A message from James in the expat group chat. Any of you guys know good divorce lawyers in Bangkok? Asking for a friend. Then Martin. I have 3 dates this weekend. Maybe one of them will actually show up this time, lol. I left the park, went back to my apartment, sat on the balcony with a beer, and tried to figure out where everything had gone wrong. But the truth was, it hadn't gone wrong at any specific moment. It had been wrong from the beginning. I'd come to Thailand broken and expected Thailand to fix me. Expected Thai women to be different enough to make me feel special, but not so different that I had to actually change who I was. And some had seen right through it, had given me a chance anyway, and I'd wasted it by thinking effort mattered more than actual understanding, the entitled one. That's what she'd called men like James. Men who thought they deserved something just for showing up, for being foreign, for offering things nobody asked for. I'd been so sure I wasn't that. But entitlement doesn't just mean thinking you deserve something. Sometimes it means thinking you understand something you don't. Thinking your perspective is the right one. Thinking that because you're trying, you should be rewarded. 3 months in Bangkok, and I'd learned absolutely nothing except how to spot every mistake in other men while making all the same ones myself. I booked a ticket to extend my stay another 3 months, told myself I just needed more time to figure it out, to find the right approach, to meet someone who would understand what I was offering. But somewhere deep down, under all the rationalizations and the wounded pride, I knew I was lying to myself. I wasn't staying to figure anything out. I was staying because going home meant admitting failure, meant facing the gray and the cold and the reality that I'd run away from my problems instead of solving them. And if someone was right about anything, it was this. You can't fix yourself by performing for someone else, not even in paradise, especially not in paradise. 3 months after Sam walked away across that park, I'd become someone I didn't recognize in mirrors, not physically. Physically, I looked the same, maybe a bit thinner from skipping meals, maybe a bit more sunburned from walking Bangkok streets in the afternoon heat like I had somewhere to be. But my eyes had changed. They'd taken on this quality I'd seen in other expat men, the ones who'd been here too long with nothing to show for it except bar tabs and bitterness. The ones who sat in corners nursing the same beer for 2 hours, talking to whoever would listen about how they'd been wronged. How Thai women were all the same. How the culture was impossible. How they'd been scammed, lied to, manipulated. I'd become one of them without noticing the transition. Or maybe I'd noticed and just stopped caring. The expat bar in Asak had become my living room. I knew everyone's drink order, knew their stories, knew which topics would set off which rants. Martin was still there, still showing photos of women who'd canceled on him. But his optimism had curdled into something defensive. I'm done with the young ones, he'd announce regularly. They're all gold diggers anyway. Looking for someone older now, more mature, someone who understands what real partnership means. By older, he meant women in their 40s who were equally desperate and equally damaged. By real partnership, he meant someone who wouldn't leave when his neediness became unbearable. James was there most nights too, though he and Nock had finally broken up after an explosive fight in a 7-Eleven that ended with her throwing a bottle of fish sauce at his head. He'd tell the story like it was funny, like it proved his point about Thai women being crazy, but I'd seen the photos of them together on his phone, the ones he'd scroll through when he was drunk enough. In those photos, Nock was smiling. Actually smiling. And James looked almost human, almost soft, almost like someone capable of love instead of just possession. The breakup had confirmed everything he believed about Thai women. That they were ungrateful. That they took advantage. That you couldn't trust them. It never occurred to him that maybe she'd thrown that bottle because he'd earned it. But the ones who scared me, the ones who showed me my own future if I didn't change course, were Paul and Ralph. Paul was Australian, early 40s, with a beer gut and a permanent sneer. He'd been in Thailand for 7 years, worked remotely for some tech company in Sydney, made good money, lived alone in a condo in Ramanax. He'd come to the bar 3 or 4 times a week, always alone, always angry about something. The government, the traffic, the heat, but mostly, always, Thai women. He'd seen it all, he claimed. Been scammed by bar girls, lied to by good girls, cheated on by women he'd supported financially. They're all the same, he'd say to anyone who'd listen. Doesn't matter if she works in a bank or a beer bar. Soon as they figure out you've got money, the real person disappears and the actress shows up. I'd heard him say things that made my stomach turn. Comments about Thai women walking past the bar, rating them, mocking their English, making assumptions about their lives, their morals, their intentions. Thai women would see him coming and cross the street, literally cross the street, or they'd suddenly need to check their phones, anything to avoid engagement, and Paul would notice, and it would confirm everything he believed. See that? He'd say. Stuck up. They're all stuck up unless you're waving money. Ralph was worse because Ralph had given up entirely. British, early 60s, he'd been in Thailand for 12 years and hadn't left his condo in Bering for anything except 7-Eleven runs in maybe 2 years. He'd show up at the bar once a month, usually when his pension hit, drink himself into oblivion, and talk about how Bangkok had changed. Used to be good here, he'd slur. Women used to be sweet, now they're all corrupted by Western feminism, all on their phones, all want money, not worth the effort anymore. He lived on instant noodles and Chang beer. His condo was apparently full of empty bottles and unwashed dishes. Someone said they'd seen him once at a 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning, buying his weekly supplies, and he'd looked like a ghost, like he'd already died, but his body hadn't figured it out yet. I told myself I wasn't like them. I was still going to the gym sometimes, still working freelance projects, still showering daily, still had standards, but the things coming out of my mouth had started to sound familiar. When new guys would show up at the bar, fresh off the plane with hope in their eyes, I'd find myself offering mornings. Be careful with Thai women, I'd say. They're good at making you feel special until they figure out what they can get from you. I'd share my story about Fern, about Som, but the version I told had changed. In this version, they were the problem. They led me on. They played games. They didn't appreciate effort. I was the victim. I was the one who'd been honest and kind and got nothing but rejection in return. The new guys would nod politely, but I could see the discomfort in their eyes. The same discomfort I'd felt 3 months ago when Martin had first shared his theories. The same discomfort that meant they still had hope, still believed their experience would be different, still thought they were special enough to avoid the trap. Give them 3 months, I thought. Give them one failed relationship. Give them one Thai woman who sees through their bullshit and walks away. Then they'd understand. Then they'd be sitting here with the rest of us, passing around cynicism like it was wisdom. I'd stop trying to date. What was the point? I'd swipe through Tinder sometimes, but every profile looked the same. Every woman was either a scammer or someone who'd eventually reveal herself to be one. I'd become fluent in spotting the signs, or what I'd convinced myself were signs. Too pretty? Probably a professional. Too quick to respond. Probably desperate for money. Too slow to respond? Playing games? Asked about my job? Gold digger. Didn't ask about my job? Hiding something. I created a system where every outcome confirmed my bias, where every interaction proved what I already believed. The other expats nodded along when I shared these insights. You're learning, they'd say. Took me 2 years to figure that out. We were a support group for men who'd confused bitterness with enlightenment, who'd mistaken pattern recognition for wisdom, who'd decided the problem couldn't possibly be us because that would mean we'd wasted years and money and emotional energy on our own dysfunction. Then one afternoon in November, I saw Som. I was at a cafe in Thong Lor, the same one where we'd had our second or third date. I hadn't been avoiding it consciously, but I hadn't been seeking it out either. That day, I'd just ended up there, needing Wi-Fi and air conditioning and somewhere to sit that wasn't my apartment or the bar. I was working on a project proposal, or pretending to, mostly just scrolling through news sites and feeling the slow weight of another wasted day. She walked in with a Thai man, my age, maybe younger, dressed in business casual, The kind of pressed shirt and slacks that said, office job, stability, normal life. They were laughing about something. Not the polite laugh people do on early dates. The comfortable laugh of people who knew each other's rhythms. He said something in Thai. She swatted his arm playfully. They ordered coffee. Sat down 3 tables away from me. She hadn't seen me yet. I should have left. Should have paid my bill and walked out and preserved whatever dignity I had left. But I sat there frozen, watching them like I was watching a play about my own failure. He wasn't more attractive than me. Wasn't funnier, as far as I could tell from the snippets of Thai I could understand. Wasn't doing anything special. He was just there, present, comfortable in his own skin, and in this country, and with this woman who I'd convinced myself didn't know what she wanted. But watching them together, I realized she'd known exactly what she wanted, just not from me. He touched her hand across the table. She didn't move it away. That simple gesture, the one that some had done with me exactly twice before she started pulling back, felt like a knife. Not because I wanted her back. I didn't, not really. But because it confirmed something I'd been trying not to see for 3 months. The problem wasn't Thai women. Wasn't Bangkok. Wasn't cultural differences or gold diggers or any of the comfortable lies I'd been telling myself while sitting in bars with other damaged men. The problem was me. All the things some had said in that park came flooding back. You don't really see me. You see what you want me to be. You're not a bad person. But you don't really see me. I dismissed it at the time as her being unfair, being unreasonable, being too demanding. But sitting there watching her with someone who actually did see her, who wasn't performing understanding or collecting experiences or trying to prove he was better than other men, I finally understood what she'd meant. I'd come to Thailand broken, brought my divorce baggage and my loneliness and my desperate need to feel wanted. And I'd expected Thai women to fix that. Expected them to be grateful for my attention, appreciative of my effort, impressed by my basic decency. When they weren't, when they had the audacity to want something more than just better than terrible, I'd gotten bitter, angry. Convinced myself they were the problem because admitting I was the problem meant admitting I'd wasted time I couldn't get back. Martin, James, Paul, Ralph. They'd all started where I started, with hope, with good intentions maybe, with wounds they thought a change of scenery would heal. And one by one, rejection had curdled that hope into entitlement. Then entitlement had curdled into bitterness, and bitterness had curdled into the kind of toxic loneliness that guaranteed more rejection. It was a cycle, a trap, and I was right in the middle of it, telling myself I was different, while becoming exactly the same. Some looked up. Our eyes met. I saw the recognition, then something like sadness. Not anger, not fear. Just sadness, the kind you feel when you see something broken that you can't fix. She said something to her boyfriend. He glanced over, nodded, turned back to her. They finished their coffee and left a few minutes later. She didn't come over to say hello, didn't pretend we could have a friendly chat, just gave me a small nod on her way out. Acknowledgement that yes, we both existed in this moment, and no, there was nothing more to say about it. I sat there for another hour after they left. The same table, the same laptop, the same unfinished project. But everything felt different. The air conditioning was too cold. The Wi-Fi was too slow. The coffee tasted like nothing. And the voice in my head, the one that had been narrating my victim's story for 3 months, finally shut up long enough for me to hear something else. You did this to yourself. That night, I didn't go to the bar. Stayed in my apartment, sat on the balcony, watched Bangkok's lights flicker in the heat haze. My phone buzzed with messages from the expat group chat. James complaining about his latest Tinder match who'd asked where he worked. Martin sharing a meme about Thai women and money. Paul ranting about immigration offices. Ralph saying nothing because Ralph never left his condo anymore, except for beer runs. I saw my future in that group chat. Saw myself at 45, at 50, at 60. Still in Bangkok, still angry, still convinced the world had wronged me, instead of admitting I'd wronged myself. Still sitting in the same bar telling the same stories to new arrivals, who'd listened for a while before they either learned the lesson and left, or stayed and became me. The thought made me physically sick. I opened my laptop, pulled up flight booking sites. Stockholm was gray and cold, and full of memories I'd run from. But at least in Stockholm, I'd been honest about being broken. At least in Stockholm, I hadn't blamed an entire country of women for my inability to fix myself. At least in Stockholm, I was just a divorced engineer trying to rebuild his life instead of a bitter expat convinced he'd figured out some dark truth about human nature. I booked a flight, 2 weeks out, early December. I'd lost my deposit on the apartment lease, but I didn't care. I'd wasted more money on worse decisions. This one at least had the virtue of stopping the bleeding. The next 2 weeks I spent settling things, finishing freelance projects, packing, saying goodbye to the few people worth saying goodbye to, which wasn't many. I went to the bar one last time, told the guys I was heading home. Martin looked shocked, like I was abandoning ship. Why? He asked. You've still got time on your visa. Still plenty of women to meet. That's the problem, I said. There will always be plenty of women to meet, and I'll always find a reason why it doesn't work. And eventually, I'll end up like... I stopped myself. Didn't finish the sentence. But we both knew what I meant. James bought me a goodbye beer. You'll be back, he said confidently. Everyone comes back. Sweden's too boring, too expensive, too feminist. You'll remember why you left. Maybe he was right. Maybe I would come back someday. But if I did, I'd come back different. Come back after I'd done the work I should have done before I ever got on that first plane. Come back when I could see people as people instead of as solutions to my problems or confirmations of my theories. The night before my flight, I walked through Bangkok one last time. Sukhumvit to Asak to Nana to Phramphong. Past the bars where I'd wasted hours. Past the coffee shop where I'd met Fern. Past the bookstore where some worked, though I didn't go inside. Just looked at it from across the street. Remembered the version of myself who'd bought that guidebook and thought reading about Thailand meant understanding it. Bangkok was beautiful in that moment, chaotic and alive and completely indifferent to my existence. It had been here before me, would be here after me. Didn't care if I figured myself out or stayed broken. Didn't care if I blamed Thai women, or blamed myself, or blamed nobody. The city would keep moving, keep breathing, keep being exactly what it was, while men like me came and went, projecting our damage onto it, mistaking our reflection for revelation. The airport the next morning was full of people going places with purpose. Business travelers. Families. Thai people visiting relatives abroad. And then there was me, going home with nothing to show for 6 months, except the painful knowledge of who I'd almost become. The desperate one who texted too much. The entitled one who thought effort equaled understanding. The bitter one who blamed everyone except himself. They weren't different types. Some had been right about that too. They were stages, a progression, a warning. This is what happens when you bring your brokenness to someone else's home and expect them to fix it. This is what happens when you confuse a change of scenery with a change of self. This is what happens when you measure your worth by whether strangers in a foreign country want to date you. My boarding pass said Stockholm, Gate E7, departure in 2 hours. I sat there with my carry-on and my laptop and my self-awareness that had arrived about 5 months too late. Thought about Martin swiping through photos of women who'd canceled. Thought about James drinking alone now that Knock was gone. Thought about Paul crossing streets to avoid being avoided. Thought about Ralph in his condo with his bottles and a certainty that the world had changed instead of him. I thought about Sam with her Thai boyfriend, laughing about something I'd never understand, because I'd been too busy performing understanding to actually listen. I thought about how she'd looked at me in that cafe, not with anger or triumph, just sadness. The sadness of someone who'd tried to help and watched the person refuse the help and slide further into the hole they were digging. The flight started boarding. I got in line with everyone else. A Thai family was ahead of me, the mother juggling a toddler in a diaper bag, the father trying to scan boarding passes with one hand while holding their older daughter's hand with the other. The little girl dropped her stuffed elephant. I picked it up, handed it to her. She said, "Ko kunka." Thank you. Her mother smiled at me, the kind of smile that was just human kindness, nothing more, nothing less. "Kob kun krap," I replied. "You're welcome." The plane took off into gray sky. Bangkok disappeared below, 6 months of my life disappearing with it. I didn't know what I'd tell people when I got back. Didn't know what I'd do next. Didn't know if I'd ever figure out how to be whole instead of just less broken. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The 3 types of foreign men Thai women avoid aren't really types at all. They're warnings. They're what happens when men go looking for paradise because they can't build it inside themselves. They're stages of the same disease, the same wound, the same fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to connect with another person. And I'd been all 3. Not anymore. Not if I could help it. But the fact I'd gotten so close, the fact I'd spent 3 months becoming someone I despised, The fact I'd almost ended up like Ralph in a condo full of bottles and bitterness that would stay with me. That had to stay with me. Because the moment you forget how easy it is to slide into that hole, the moment you start thinking you're immune, that's when you've already started falling. Stockholm was gray when I landed. Cold. Exactly as I'd left it. But this time, walking out of Arlanda airport into Swedish winter, I didn't feel the weight of it crushing me. I felt something else. Something like relief. Like coming back to a language I could speak fluently. To people whose signals I could read. To a version of myself I'd abandoned in my hurry to escape. I didn't know if that version was better. But at least it was honest. At least it didn't blame an entire country of women for one man's inability to see them clearly. At least it didn't sit in bars convincing itself that bitterness was wisdom and loneliness was enlightenment. At least it was a place to start.